Hi everyone, I'm Riva, and in this video, I'm going to offer a little heart-centered career advice. The topic is on how you should be a little bit more vulnerable at work. And it's something that's near and dear to me because it's something I personally struggled with a lot earlier on in my career and life. And I really have found a lot of benefit in overcoming that issue that I've had with vulnerability. And I found that it's actually been incredibly empowering and strengthening as I embraced it. And I want to help other people who might be feeling a bit resistant to being vulnerable. For instance, when I used to feel super resistant, it was because I felt unsafe. It was because I felt like if I were to let people know when I was dealing with a lot, or if I was authentic about what experiences I was having outside of work that were making work challenging or not allowing me to show up as my full amazing self, I would be afraid that people would think less of me. I would be afraid that people would judge me, or have the fear that people would just think less of me, think I wasn't going to be capable, but in a very negative way, not like in a, oh, this person might need a break kind of a way. Just like I would be treated differently, or people would act like somehow I wasn't capable of doing things and I would lose opportunities, or all sorts of stories I used to tell myself. And so I, wasn't always the healthiest. I wasn't always treating myself the best way or practicing self-care, even though these days I always tout to practice self-care. And I do so myself, but I would often, whether there's stuff going on with my own health or, other people in my life, I would hide all of that. I would bottle it up. I would kind of compress it and then try to still show up in every single part of my life. Like everything was perfect, everything was fine, or at least I just didn't let on to what was really going on. And it would get really stressful. It would get really hard sometimes because I would just be exhausted, or I would take longer to get better, or I would end up hurting myself or taking longer just to heal from something, or all of the things. And I like too many stories to tell for all the ways I would neglect myself or try to put on a brave face and then maybe not show up that great, and then have people actually probably question what was off about me. But since they had no context, it was just like there's something off with me. And oftentimes I just glossed over everything and just did my job, did my responsibilities, and wouldn't really authentically speak up about what I was going through. And having experienced life that way, and also experienced life through being more vulnerable and realizing, wow, that's a much better path to go. And it's actually much healthier, and it's incredible how much I can be supported and how much less pressure I could put on myself so I could actually take care of my life and myself. It was an incredible difference, and I embrace that now. And I want to share that with more people. So if you're someone who kind of hides what you're really going through, or if you've been that person that's kind of had the family in the hospital and then been up all night with the kids, or done all the things and then tried to still show up for work like nothing was off at all, and exhausted yourself, like I want you to really start to question that process and consider doing things a different way by being a little bit more vulnerable with those around you. And I think it helps to kind of have some context. So I'll share a little story recently about this. I recently have had some bouts of anxiety. And in my life, I've never experienced anxiety. And up until more recently, which it was very scary. It was really uncomfortable. And a lot of you know that I'm a breathwork instructor, so it'll be a little surprising for some of you to hear that one of the biggest issues I had with the anxiety was I would feel like I couldn't breathe. I would wake up in the middle of the night and it would just feel like I couldn't get enough air. Like my chest and my back would be tight and compressed, and I just couldn't get a full enough breath. And I would toggle between the part of me that was observing this happening and realizing I'm not controlling my body the way I want to, and telling myself it's okay, like we're safe, we're we're all right. Like, we can breathe, just breathe more slowly. Take your time. And then the other part of me in my brain that's going, we should go to a doctor. We should go to urgent care. We should go to the emergency room because what if you stop breathing entirely? And the other part of me coming back in and going, there's not always a ton that can be done. It takes a very long time to be seen. And we're very likely, given everything we know that's happening right now, experiencing anxiety, the racing thoughts, and the really like tight feelings. Just breathe through this. You're going to be okay. So like all of these parts of me, like toggling back and forth. And this would ultimately happen often at nighttime. And I would be really uncomfortable. So I would wake up and maybe I'd get up at 2, maybe I'd get up at 5 or 4 and just keep getting up. And then it would just be exhausting. And so by the time I woke up, finally, I was just so tired from the anxiety that I like could barely think. And it was kind of scary and uncomfortable, and not just the sensation of anxiety, but it's also, to be honest, that's given me a gift. I do find gifts in just about everything. And while no one wants anxiety, I was actually really grateful to have this experience because it's allowed me to understand other people who really do experience anxiety a lot more, or who have been experiencing it their whole lives much better. And while I will never pretend to understand every individual's anxiety, I think there's a different flavor for each person that as we experience it personally. There might be similarities, but I think everyone's experience is very different. And I'm starting to understand what those experiences are so that I can help people who are in those situations much more effectively. And before, I had been working with people who had had anxiety, but I didn't truly understand and appreciate what their experience was. Not to say I discounted, I just didn't have that lens on life. And so having these experiences has actually taught me a lot and given me language to understand their experience and given me a way to practice different coping skills and things that I practice and try to make the tools more effective so that I can share them with other people. And all that being said, I wasn't doing so great. I was having a lot of days come up where I was just not effective, and I was starting to struggle. Mostly in my mind, I'd still do all my work, I'd still do all my tasks, but I was just like, I was off. And so this time, unlike years and years ago, where I wouldn't tell people when I was struggling or when there was something off, especially for something like anxiety, because I would have been like, well, I can hide that. Nowadays, I'm different. So now what I did instead was I brought this up with my own manager, and I talked with her about what I'd been experiencing, and I let her know that this is, what's been happening. I'm still doing my work. I don't get a lot of sleep some nights. I don't know what's going on. I can't predict it. It just happens, but it's really a bit upsetting and kind of hard for me because I'm not used to this and I'm still figuring things out. And what I was met with was an overwhelmingly huge amount of support, love, and acceptance and understanding. And if my manager ever happens to be watching this, thank you so much. I'm so grateful because, when you're going through these challenging times and you're already beating yourself up, it's like having someone else see you and acknowledge you and be supportive of you, because, the immediate response was like, what is it that you need? If you need time, if you need a rest, if you need to take a break. And my intention going into it was just to like, let them know that like, if something's slightly off, that's why. But I mean, I was met with a lot of support and thought and care of what is it that's going to allow you to thrive through this experience and feel okay. Like if you need the time, if you need to take a break, these are all things that are available to you. And none of the conversations were ever, oh, well, you better make sure this other thing gets done, or this other thing needs to be prioritized even, so none of the focus was on tasks or things. It was just on how am I doing and what is it that I need? And that was so incredibly empowering. And I think that often we have this fear in our mind that, things, somehow we're going to be hurt by being vulnerable. And it was the exact opposite. It was just really empowering because it took that extra weight of all of the uncertainty and all of the, what if I can't show up a certain way for someone, right? What if I fail at something? What if I screw something up? What if I'm like, not saying that everything should be okay to be messed up, but like, it took away all the pressure of like, say I have a really off day, like I'm not going to have to struggle through it. I can just ask for help. I can ask for support. I could ask for time. I can ask for maybe something to be taken off my plate if it really came to that. And I didn't feel scared that I had to deal with all of that on top of the anxiety and not sleeping and whatever else was going through my mind. And that alone was so incredible, because anxiety is, you don't want one more thing to pile on to anxiety. And so it really lifted me to feel like I could actually be supported. And that's why I want to encourage you guys to do this sort of thing, because when you vocalize when you're struggling, when you vocalize there's something going on with me, I'm having a hard time, maybe it's medical. Now, I'm not saying you have to share every single medical detail with your manager and everyone else in your life, but can you share enough that kind of gives them a little picture view into your life to understand and be compassionate and be supportive and give you what you need for resources? I think it's easy to get into a really dark place, especially in the last couple of years. I mean, I can't imagine, I know there's a lot of people who've gotten anxiety over the past couple of years, like the big changes in the world and the way people are living their lives and the things they're fearing and everything. And my heart goes out to each and every one of you, because I know it can't be comfortable. I know these brand new experiences of anxiousness, maybe you've never experienced it before. Maybe you have your whole life, but there's new experiences to be more anxious about. And that's a lot of weight on you to carry. And it doesn't have to just be anxiety. Not that it's a just. It could be other physical health conditions. It could be family members or in the hospital. It could be kids that are keeping you up all night and they're sick, or whatever it might be. And people suffer in silence. They tend to, and I know from experience, just keep it to themselves and try to power through things because they're afraid of what they'll be perceived as or how others will perceive them. And when you don't tell people what's going on, when you just keep it all to yourself and bundle it all down and compress it, or just cover it all up, no one can truly support you or give you the tools and resources that you need to thrive. But when you are willing to be vulnerable and voice what's happening to a level that you feel comfortable sharing, you give people the opportunity to then say, how can I help? What do you need? What is it that you would want in order to move through this more effectively, or to get yourself together, or to take care of yourself, or to heal from something, or to recover? Like, what is it that you need? People are far more good-hearted and good-natured than people will give them credit for. A lot of your colleagues, a lot of your managers are actually really, really good-hearted people who have the intention of supporting you to do well, whether that's in life or in your jobs. And a lot of the time, the two trickle over into each other. And so it's not to say they need to come home and bring you soup. It's just if you voice that there's something going on with you, then you give them the opportunity to take something off your plate if it's too much pressure, or to offer you a support or an extra resource to help you with something if that's what you need, or to give you some extra days to just take care of yourself, to do what you need to do to get better, whatever that might mean for you, or to take care of your family, or to take care of your kids, like whatever that looks like, your dog, your whatever it is. And for example, and being vulnerable, it doesn't just have to be with your manager. It could be with other colleagues. Like when this was coming up, there was a meeting these were holiday events, but it doesn't have to be a holiday event. It could be any time of year that you express what you're going through. And maybe it doesn't have to be at the main project meeting. Maybe it's in a side meeting with some colleagues. But when you express, for example, when I was expressing during a meeting what I was really going through, because I didn't show up in the meeting the way I wanted to. I almost didn't join the meeting at all. I had just had a night full of anxiety and I didn't get much rest. I was super tired. I was really uncomfortable. And then I got kind of down on myself and started to be more secluded and didn't really want to be around people. And I pushed myself anyways to join the meeting. And I shared about this experience, exactly what I was going through. And I just explained, I wasn't actually able to do this thing that we were all supposed to do for the meeting. And I don't have my camera on because these are the things I've been feeling. And I'm just proud that I showed up. And you don't have to always explain why you have your camera on first. You can just do things for yourself. But I just wanted to practice being vulnerable and not be down on myself about my choices. And because I was vulnerable, everyone was super supportive. Everyone was so kind, so sweet about all of the kind words that they shared. They were very encouraging. They were and I needed that at the time. It's not that I was asking for it. I didn't expect anyone to do anything, but it really meant a lot to me. And even like through that meeting, people would send me private messages and offer me to talk to me. And they'd explain like they'd been through having anxiety. They know what that feels like. And if I wanted to talk to them about their experience or some tips or things that have helped, they would be happy to do so. And that really meant a lot to me because, again, I didn't expect it. I was just sharing so people knew I hadn't done the activity that they asked us to do. But to have people really reach out in a heartfelt way and be so compassionate, that was so uplifting and so incredible. And I did talk with those people. I took them up on their offers and I met with them and I heard their experiences and they shared different things that helped them, ways that they coped with it. And it gave me new ideas, new inspirations for things to try, new hope for things. And that was real. And just knowing like what their experience was like was really meaningful because it's like a person, that I know. And I'm like, wow, they were so vulnerable in sharing with me. And in hearing, similarities and hearing certain things that I'd experienced made it seem like at least it's more normal, like not normal, but like it made it more okay. It made me more okay with what was happening and less like the world is ending kind of thing. And just like, okay, this is a thing that happens. And I now know that I can move through this a little more. And this is actually something that other people have happened far more frequently and they're still okay. And so with that experience and another where I shared a little more openly with some colleagues where it came around to they were asking like, oh, what's going on with you? And I was just so tired at the time and a little bit zombied out. And so I was just honest. I was like, I'm a little off. I've been dealing with this anxiety. And through being authentic about it, I received such warm support and, acknowledgement and people who just were like very forthcoming about, I've had this experience, like, and asking me questions and offering thoughts and genuine concern and care about what I was going through. And just being seen and having people who I work with regularly be aware that, yeah, Riva is struggling right now, or Riva might be struggling at the moment, or Riva might have had no sleep last night and she's having a little bit of a hard day. And so it allows there to be a way for someone to hold space for you, to be a little more patient with you. If there's something maybe you're like, I'm actually not going to be able to get that to you today. I'm going to have to do it tomorrow. And having people be much more understanding of, oh, okay, well, that's understandable. You've been going through something. And so, yes, like we're not going to be super pressurized. I mean, I did get all my work done, but like, say I didn't, then I could feel much more comfortable with saying, I just need a little more time, or I can't process this right now. And I'd feel safe doing so because everyone around me is expressing such support and care. And honestly, like that's so meaningful to me. And that's something that if you're experiencing struggles, if you're experiencing challenges, that will make you feel so much more empowered and uplifted by having the people around you see you, not pity you, not be like, oh, there's some, like, just see you and know that you're going through something, and you don't have to hide everything that you're stressed about and hide all the problems you're going through. You don't have to share everything, but share enough that you let people in on your life a little bit to go, okay, this person can use a little bit of a breather, a little bit of a break, a little more patience and understanding, because there's stuff that's going on, whether it's you or someone you care about, that you're taking care of, or that you just, it's a very difficult thing for you mentally, emotionally, psychologically. Like, these are issues that should be addressed and treated with sensitivity, but the only way they can be is if you willingly share this information to those around you who might be working with you, who might be able to hold space for you, who could make decisions to give you additional time, to give you a break, to give you the support you need to deal with and handle whatever is going on. And it's not just about that. It's, if sometimes it's easier to do this for other people more than for ourselves. So if you think about it, like, when you are more vulnerable, you give permission to others around you to be vulnerable. When you are honest and say, when I was doing that and I was explaining, this is what I'm going through, this is what's been going on, I had other colleagues share openly in a group, this is, something I've experienced before, or they'd share a similar experience. There's something parallel, but like, there's this other thing that was going on with me. And it was like a way for other people to feel safe. I'd never known that about them before. I never knew those things had happened to my colleagues. But in sharing my own vulnerability and my own story and my own situation, I made it safe for other people to bring these conversations up and to bring these kinds of experiences to light with their other colleagues, which is really a connection. And so it really strengthens your connections with others, because then you get to learn more about other people and you get to develop these relationships with your colleagues that are so much more deep and so much more meaningful, because you feel a true heartfelt connection with them when you can empathize and you can see and understand each other and realize we're not that different. Like, we all go through things. We all have things that keep us up at night, that cause us to lose a bit more sleep and ability to think properly. And like, whether it's kids or sickness or like, or both, like, it's the being authentic and vulnerable with each other that helps us to strengthen our relationship, our connections. We're very social people, whether you want to consider yourself an introvert, extrovert, or whatever language they have these days. We are inherently social beings. We thrive through connection with other beings. We might have human beings we're a little bit are our favorites, but we still thrive through our network of people and interacting with our network of people, whether that's virtually or, in person. And, it makes it even more challenging these days with it being virtual. Our managers, they don't see us. They don't know, your colleagues don't see you all the time if you're working from home or you're hybrid. You are kind of like isolated. It's very easy to hold the weight of the world and have no one see that that's happening. And that makes it even more important for you to speak up and to share what you're going through. Like, and think of it this way. If you were at work and you saw a colleague was exhausted, or an intern was crying, or someone was upset, you would want to go help. You would want to check in on them. And you know how good it feels. If you're listening to this, you're one of those people that like feels good when you help someone. And, when you're able to help them feel better, or maybe offer to do something for them, or give them some advice, or just be an ear and let them vent, let them get their stuff out, or share what they're going through. And you know that they're saying, that feels better, that helped me, thank you for letting me share that. It makes you feel so good inside. And by being vulnerable, you give that gift to other people, where you let them be. And it's not easy to be vulnerable, because you're saying, you're letting go of control of something and saying, like, I am not able to control this issue. And you're publicly to another person or people saying that. Very scary sometimes and uncomfortable. But you give them the power to then stand up and maybe offer you something, again, whether it's just to listen, or maybe it's some words of wisdom, or a person that you could go to. Maybe they know a good therapist, maybe they know a good tool, a YouTube video, something that they're aware of that they can offer you to see if it would help you. And in doing that, it helps you, and then they get to feel good that they've done something for you too. Not that you have to be responsible for everybody else when you're not feeling good or when you've got a lot going on, but it's just something to keep in the back of your mind for a reason to consider actually being vulnerable, like letting people in on your life and what's going on. You don't have to give them every single detail, just enough to let you be seen or be supported in a way that you can be supported and you want to be supported. And one more thing I really want to touch on, because I'm sure there's going to be some people out there who are listening and are like, that's so nice. That's great that you can do that. I can't share this with the people that I work for or my colleagues. Like, they don't care. And they wouldn't, and maybe if you really are at a place where they don't care, or your manager wouldn't give a crap if you needed help or asked for help or something, I'm going to send you some tough love. Not tough love. I'm going to send you some loving advice. I'm going to give you a bundle of something that doesn't sound that great, but it's going to be filled and covered and coated with love. If you're in an environment where you are literally not being supported and you couldn't go to someone for help if you needed it, or maybe you've tried and it slapped you in the face, I'd encourage you strongly to reconsider where you're working, because you deserve to be valued. You deserve to be supported. You deserve to have a group of people around you who are willing to catch you when you're falling. And when you need a little more assistance or a break or an understanding of some kind, you deserve to receive that. You deserve to have the resources you need to thrive, to come out of a dark place, to help take care of your family, to be able to do the things you need to do in your personal life so that you can show up as your full self in your workplace. And it's so important that you demand this of yourself. And maybe you aren't getting it where you are working right now. Maybe it's not a matter of you need to ask again or ask more. It shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be hard for another human being to be compassionate and understanding. We're built and designed to hold that, but sometimes people choose to act differently. So there's tons of companies out there. There are tons of really great places to work that have people who are very empathic, who have people who are supportive, who are understanding, and who want you to do well. And I want to tell you that if you're not somewhere where you are supported and people do not treat you and respect you in the way you wish to be, to thrive, to find another place to work, because you don't deserve to be treated like your voice doesn't matter, that your life doesn't matter, or that you should have to struggle and suck it up and show up and do it anyway when you haven't had the capacity because of whatever is going on at home. The people in your life, your colleagues, your managers, they should be willing to hold space for you, to at least treat you respectfully when you voice something that's going on with you. And ideally, you want to be somewhere where you feel held, understood, seen, and valued, and like you're given the support and given the resources you need to take care of yourself and your family, whether that be time or other resource allocation, like whatever it might be, you deserve to be supported. And you absolutely can find a place to work where you will be supported, but you have to demand that for yourself. And you have to make the hard decisions sometimes when you're not in a place that's supporting you to find a place that does. It's not easy all the time. It's definitely not easy to leave places, and it's really easy to feel guilty. But you have to understand that you have available to you the ability to go to a place that will support you. It's up to you to choose to be in a place that will support you, because every single person who is listening to this deserves to have that available to them, and can have that available to them. You sometimes just have to take a little bit extra work and effort to find it, but you have to make it a priority. Otherwise, you are going to be stuck in environments where you're forced to just hold the weight of the world all by yourself. And that can lead to burnout. That can lead to sickness. That can lead to it taking way longer to get better than it should. And so much more. Not being able to show up for your family, that hurting your relationships in your life, and that just being so much more stress and pressure that you don't need when you're already going through stuff. So my encouragement to each and every one of you is to try to be more vulnerable, to open up, to let down that wall every once in a while when you can really use someone to see you and you can use a little bit of being witnessed and some time and support and encouragement and whatever it is, and tell people, because they're not going to be able to read your mind. They can't even read your body language if you're not on camera or you're not in the office with them. So they're left in the dark, and you're sitting there maybe struggling and frustrated and getting angrier. From experience, people, I'm talking from experience. You might get really frustrated and annoyed, and you're building up stories in your head about how terrible something is. But the truth is, you haven't asked for help. You haven't told a single person around you that you're drowning. You haven't told a single person around you that you could use the time or flexibility or something else. And as soon as you do, in a good environment, you will be caught, you'll be held, you'll be witnessed, you'll be heard, and you'll be loved and supported in all of the ways that you deserve. And it's just a matter of you letting down those walls and letting down those barriers and doing the challenging, hard thing and actually speaking up about what you're going through for your experience and allowing people to be there for you. Because so many people are willing to be there if you would allow them. A lot of the time we take it upon ourselves to have to hold the weight of the world, and we don't have to do that. Okay, I will leave it at that for now. I send you all so much love. I hope you have a wonderful holidays coming up and you enjoy the next videos.